Missy's in visiting, and ShopDog is showing these guys exactly what we've been up to. Diesel's kind of looking at all the 3D printed stuff and working out how this works. And in a minute, I'm going to give him the full rundown. Okay, at this point, Diesel and Cheryl are definitely kind of up on what's going on. Happy about the dual relay setup. And part of today's task is to go ahead and get those tidied up, because we can't get new ones. We've already looked. I believe we've got new knobs, but the selector switches are not a thing we're going to get, and that's fine. I think they'll clean up just fine. You can see they're not blistered or anything. They're just dirty. You know, they're old, and it turns out old means dirty. And ShopDog's going, what about French fries? Side quest. He was able to get some studs. They're a hair bigger than we were hoping for, but I think we're in the ballpark of what we can pull in. So we're getting ready to try that. It looks like they're just a little longer than we would prefer. They're going to fill those lug nuts right up. So he had one screwed onto the wheel. I've got one started, but not in yet. That's why we're getting ready to set up and see if we can ugga-dugga this thing in. We are able to get these bigger ones in. We just have to do a trick. So what I'm doing is ever so slightly marking my 5/8 just up at the top. You can see it's right up here, so that I know what 5/8 looks like. And then I'm taking a hard burr and just knocking the old splines off, not getting as big as what I have. I'll show you in just a minute what that looks like, but it's working. These guys are definitely in, and boy, they're hard to get in. Thank God for Shop Air. That's how much bigger these are. Hopefully that shows up pretty well. So I'm just lightly scoring that, and then what I'm going to do is take my hardened burr and go in and start knocking those splines down a little bit. Not all the way out to that, but it helps me make sure everything stays concentric. I didn't completely remove the splining, but that should be enough for us to be able to force a new stud in. So, stud's ready to get pressed in. I've got a spacer, a hard washer, it needs to be hardened or it's going to do that, and then a nut that fits. Ideally, you'd be using a lug nut the backwards way, but we only have these acorns in this half, so that is going to work. So that gives us 3 of them. And then one thing to note, because you see how that goes. Now, these acorns will go all the way down right to it. If I come to the back side of the wheel and place it just like it would be, which is right there. I don't know that you guys can see anything, but maybe you guys can see where the threading is. So, looks like it's going to work just fine. There was some sacrifices, but we got these 5 in. So that poor unhardened nut gave up its life. It lost its threads. So before we do the other side, which wasn't going to happen right now anyway because it still has a tire on it, we will get some lug nuts that are half 20 acorn style, or not acorn, open. So yeah, because we're just sacrificing these poor grade 5 nuts. ShopDog has a good friend right now because Pixie's eating something. But yeah, Diesel got a new kind of mount that he wants to kind of look at. Look how fancy that is.
Yeah, this is a tablet mount. It's all steel, and it unscrew it here. But if you look at the nice flat space, that'll go right there. And then I think
it'll be strong enough to hold that.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that this will...
Oh. Yeah, it'll fit between there, no problem. Make a metal plate to go on the other side, a real thin one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just...
how I think that'll work.
It just comes down to how high up are we, where are, you know, that kind of stuff, but we can work with that.
Yeah, we'll play with that in the car and make sure that that works. So that's the first thing we're going to do today. The other thing, we ordered up these OER. These are usually in F bodies. This is what your seat belt goes into.
Yeah, back of a 69 or 68.
So we didn't like these because of how they came up. They bolt in really odd and they just wouldn't quite fit right. So I think we're going to end up cutting these somehow, getting these 2 things together so that this can hide the belt and then this can be exactly where it needs to be.
Well, yeah, and it can give you that little bit of movement.
Yeah. So we'll play with this as well.
Conveniently, the seats are out, which makes it a lot easier to get at those bolts.
All right, so we've been playing with this articulated arm that we showed earlier in the video, and we like it. But one of the things that we don't like about it is the fact that it's too tall. So we've been playing with some ideas, taking it apart, and ideally, this becomes the plate with the ball socket on it, and then this way, it can move through a plane one way or another, X or Y. Take your choice.
Yeah, to give us this tilt here.
Yep. So shoot from this side here.
Yep, I'm coming around.
So if we take this, it's just an idea, and we butt this right up against the bottom here. What you'll see is that this gets us to a pretty good depth for what we're looking for. So it seems like it fits on there pretty well, snug up, not interfering with the shift lever or anything. So now our next thing that we're trying to solve for is how do we attach this to the back of this housing. This is
knowing that that is a lot heavier than we expected it to be.
Yeah, this thing is a good couple of pounds. So we did the Play-Doh test, put the two things together, and we don't have a lot of thickness.
85 mils.
85 mils between the back of the housing here on the stereo and the back of the house, or in the front of the housing here in its installation plate. So
which means we probably don't want to just drill this and screw through it.
Yeah, probably wouldn't be thick enough. So what we're talking about doing now is shaving this edge down, using these holes, because these holes are recessed back from the back of this radio.
Which means we can also put a plate on the inside.
Yep, make it strong, have a plate that goes across the back that this can then bolt to. So ideally then what's happening is this is bolted to a plate, which is then bolted to the plastic. That's our current idea right now. So we'll see if that works.
Yeah, because that's a little hefty. We weren't expecting that. So we just don't want it to go blah, 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 when we're driving down the road.
Can you imagine trying to follow a Google map as it's...
Yeah, as it's bouncing around. But because this is a nice thick piece of die cast here, originally we really just tried so hard to make it so that we could do something like that. And it just moves the screen out so far, no matter what we did. And we've tried several different mounts. And anything strong enough, it just always is a compromise and also won't look great. So if we can just mount, drill a hole here, we're going to have a hole anyway for that cable for the screen because it's not that long, as we discussed in a previous video. So there's going to be a hole here anyway, and the closer the screen is to it, the more it's going to hide it. So that's our preference. And then at some point I got to figure out how I'm going to make our little hiding screen here, how it's going to attach. I see that I have a screw hole here that I might be able to use to my advantage somehow, but not worried about that. And then remember, I'm going to cut a plate out of the fancy acrylic to go here. It'll hide these holes and also just tie the lids here so we can work with that. But yeah, that's one of the things that's really high on our list of stuff we've got to know, because a lot of the usability of this vehicle hinges on, one, that reverse camera, and two, Google Maps. We've, as a modern society, have gotten really, really used to having Android Auto or Apple CarPlay or any of those things. And it's really, really nice feature on Power Tour, if you're on a long trip, or even if you're just going to get ice cream, just to know that there's some traffic ahead. So we just don't want it to look like it's an afterthought. We want it to look like somebody put some thought into this. Incidentally, we walked by, and look at the difference there. Those look amazing. Okay, I'm just doing some mapping real quick.
You want a light?
Sure, but I can see what I need to see. Okay. It gets pretty snuggy in here. So this is where I'm thinking we're going to have to mount this stereo, because this cable has to be able to reach, and it needs to be right about there. So yeah, that's pretty snug. Before we go crazy with all of our little plans, we decided that maybe we should just take this bracket that came with the kit here. We cut it down to fit, and we just plastic bonded it. And let's give that a second, well, 15 minutes or 20 minutes or so, and see if that's actually going to be strong enough. That may actually be all we need to do. So before we get too crazy, let's see. I cut one down and verified that I could drill into it. And now I'm going to cut it to the height I actually want, drill it, tap it. We think we got this figured out, how we're going to do this. This is actually going to work pretty slick. Real quick, the reason I have it jigged in there like that, because it is just a fine metal, I'm using the flats across the draw as a way to keep this as even as I can. You can see, and I'm mostly watching the camera right now, so you can see just how nice that is. Don't fight, don't try to cut into that, that's too hard. But that will make a nice even cut across. I already tested like that. We've got a hole all the way through. We've got a screw that mounts to it. And then we even have a solution for the anti-rotation. Once we know exactly where that's going to go and we drill the hole for that, we'll drill one on each side, put a pan head screw from this side going out and just washer it in. And then this won't be able to rotate because it'll hit those screw heads. This is probably going to be about as slick as we could have asked for. We all know that aftermarket stuff is garbage, so I had to go steal the wife's little needle files because these knobs in here that he bought, they almost fit, but they don't. But they almost fit, but they don't. And he thought he could drill one out, and he already broke one. So I think, see, here's the size of a factory knob, and then that's the one he broke. But then when you look at, oh, that's not even the right knob. I think they're over here. Yeah, these here, you know. So we're going to play with a little file and see if we can just get it to fit. I've got a test plate that I've made. I know, this one's it's just a test plate. I just made it out of some scrap. And here's our concept. So pretend this is that plate on there. And this is sticking out. So he can get his side-to-side movement. You know, and then he's got this lock. It can rotate, of course, and then lock down. So that's not a problem. And then because of these scallops, if we have a couple screws held in, then that can't go anywhere, you know. Even now, which I found I can get a little tighter. So I will, because that's at 450 offset. So I'll go to 430 offset, maybe 420 offset on the real plate. But that really limits the ability for this to just vibrate and unscrew. Plus, that screw will have Loctite in it when it's done. I think this is a concept we can work with.
How'd you get in there with the screwdriver? Those are pretty tight.
Or I put those in before I put that on. Something like that.
And nutted it from the back.
Exactly. Okay, since I'm not a machinist, and I'm sure any machinist watching would cry, I don't have Dykem. But what I do have is Sharp'em. So you just take a Sharpie right on there, scratch in there, and then you can center punch. So this is the one where we're going to try at 420. So see, that's 420. And another example of overkill is never too much. Countersunk these in, ground those off. You'll see those from the other side. So now I know for a fact that between the epoxy, these screws stuck in and cut out, those were plastic cutters, and then these guys locked in, that is not going anywhere. Right, Diesel's been busy. He spoofed this radio.
So these retro sound radios come with a detachable faceplate, and you can get an extra long cord if you wanted to hide this box somewhere away. But since we're just using this as a faceplate, I was able to unscrew it, use the side knobs, attach those in, and it's kind of a dummy face now. So what I'm going to be able to do is call Retrosound, get another faceplate,
and knobs,
and then see what we can do with this. Because this took all of this stereo wiring out of the way, because it's replaced by the one that we're putting here on the console.
Yeah, that also gives me so much more room to mount that in there. So that makes me very happy. I was starting to get a little worried about that. Okay, I have mapped out what's going on here, and we're going to see what they think about it. I am recommending, and I've got everything located, that this mount right here gives them the, you know, the side to side that they want. Up and down is now kind of centered, so that we get a nice distance here and a nice distance here. It is centered side to side. And then the cable that has to come into the back of the radio to plug in we can put through one of these slittable grommets. There's not a lot we can do about that. We have to have it. So let's minimize it. It'll be hidden on the passenger side. I don't think it'll even be noticeable to anybody that doesn't know to look for it. And this is going to be very, very, very strong. Before we commit to drilling a bunch of holes that we can't undrill, we're just popping some seats in real quick, throwing that front bezel on, and making sure that the viewing angles are going to work. And of course, Pixie's been commanded to come open the door by ShopDog. Okay, he's throwing a bolt in his seat real quick. I've got a couple in mine. We have the center console itself, you know, just the consolette, the upper part in. We didn't bother with the bottom because that is a pain.
Consolette?
Yeah, the top, a small console.
Small console.
Yes.
Is that a new word?
No, it's a very old word.
Oh, consolette.
Okay. Yeah, don't question me on the videos. Alright. So, I'm gonna throw Mushka in the thing. I am the bracket.
Wow. Holy crap. Yeah,
What do you
like
think of that?
Yeah, the other thing I would do is I'd angle it up a little bit, but that's not bad. Shirley, you want to hop in and see?
Okay. I lost
Here, pick.
Mushka.
No, hop in here.
Yeah, because honestly, if it works on one when we're straight, it works on both.
It's going to matter to the driver as you're trying to look at Google Maps on Power Tour. That looks pretty good.
Yeah, no, that's...
I'll be much closer.
Yep, I lost Mushka. Whoop, I lost not ShopDog. There we go.
Aaron, you should come over here.
Yeah, I think this is going to work. Okay. Well, we also want someone in the passenger seat to see, because honestly, the side-to-side thing may not really matter.
I don't think it will because you're close.
However you want it.
You're close enough to that screen where I don't think it's going to be an issue of pivoting it one way or the other.
Grab some Mushka. Boom, boom, boom. I'm driving. Let me put this at the height I would be driving at. Oh, God, that's not going to be a problem at all. Yeah, doot, 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 doot.
Yep.
That's going to look really nice.
Yeah, so instead of doing the side to side, if you
Yeah,
did the up and
we'll
down.
just give it the up and down. It is not going to need side to side.
Now, the other thing we should check for over here.
Yeah, throw that all the way forward. Oh, well, put your hand there. Are you going to throw on a knob?
Of course. Got to make it look official.
Okay.
Hey, and there's real ShopDog. Hey, ShopDog.
Okay. So, he's just getting ready to see if we punch the screen when we go to park. Oh, God, not even close. Not even an issue at all. Yep. That is, God, that's ideal. We couldn't have planned this better, and this was all just accidental.
Yep.
And this is a good driving height, good size, you know. Tilt column. Boy, is that nice. Not sure about that. So here's the actual unit, nicely mounted. Oh yeah, it's got a little heft.
It's a little heavy.
Okay, let me. Oh boy, that's hard to push.
Oh, I don't
Okay.
put the button on it.
Oh, that's still not a problem. Not a problem. Yeah, are you sure you still want to come up as high now? Well, actually, that's probably still fine.
How's your line of sight to the bottom here?
Oh, you can see all of it, no problem. Right now, because it's a mirror, all I see is the knob and this seat. But once it was on, you know, you wouldn't have that problem.
Yep.
Yeah, like I said, I think you're right. I think we actually more care about up and down than left and right.
Yeah.
I think that's so big that it's visible for the driver and the passenger. So yeah, that, and you were using this as the bottom pan head.
I use that as just as the top of
Yeah,
here.
as best you could.
Yep.
Yeah, so yeah, just a little higher than that guy. I can work with that.
Here, let's for fun.
Oh, for funsies,
Yeah.
turn it to where now it's the uppy downy. That's one thing that's nice about a fully adjustable thing, is you can fully adjust it. Oh yeah, that's awesome.
See, back and forth.
Well, that also means now you can kind of fight the glare from the sun a little.
Yeah. See, and that's just a little bit of an angle.
Yep, ever so slightly. Now, if I'm holding that, how easy is it for you to get at that knob?
Oh, easy. I can just get right in.
Okay.
We have a solution. There we go. Hold that back up there. I want to see it from here. Yeah, perfect. God, that's nice.
Yeah.
That's really nice.
And we didn't fiberglass a thing and make the big console that you see in every classic car. I mean, literally every one of them.
Factory console with an add-in stereo with Google Maps. This will be fantastic.
Yeah. So don't forget, we do still have this. I mean, I didn't hook power up to this because
I'm not going to smoke any
cigar.
cigars.
Well, I meant if you wanted to use it for that thing. But remember, it's cigar lighters. Always, nothing ever fits. Yeah. So I was looking at this as a decoration.
I think it is as well.
Before I take it apart so I can paint, that's actually the distance. It clears the shifter this way so it's not in the line of sight. That's why it looks like it's up. But remember, the dash is at that angle, so it looks like more. This is going to work out so slick. Here's our mounting bracket on the back. Yeah. And then right there. So here's how he's doing his conversion from the stiff plastic using this little collar from an F-body. You know, it won't completely hide it, but by God, that looks pretty good. Now remember, this is against the hump on this side. Yeah, that's going to look really nice. So now they're going to go get one installed, and let's see how this looks. Okay, we're still waiting on paint to dry, but I did go ahead and pop that in, and I cut it so we can, you know, it now will allow a cable through. Oh, getting excited about how nice that's going to look. You can see that with all the strength we've added here. I have no doubt in my mind that will hold the screen very solid. So that turned out to be the best way for us to do it. Okay, so here they have those mounted, and that is absolutely beautiful. That's gonna work. So he's popping it in there for one more look, remembering that paint's not completely cured. So he is seeing what's going on. Okay, so this is their last chance to take a look before we finalize. I mean, the holes are already drilled. Nothing you can do about that. But look at the Mushka phone. Yeah, now picture a much bigger screen. Yeah, that's going to work out great.
It's in a perfect spot.
It's almost like we planned this, you know, 7-8 months ago.
Almost.
Oh, yeah, this is going to work out great. And then getting this room here back, that's night and day. Because remember, I have to have the switches for the Dakota in there. And I'm still trying to decide where we're putting the switches for the air ride. Because remember, you got that plugger inner thing. It's got to go somewhere. Pixie's relaxed. We're letting things finish curing. It's easier to get these screws when this is down, so that'll just sit down. I think I'm going to try to 3D print a longer swing arm here. Shouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Overall, I gotta say, we're really happy with how this came out. This is going to work. It's going to look really nice. So later in the week, I'll knock the chairs back out and throw them in the back seat so I can finish some wiring work. I'm going to have to figure out my brackets for the radio. But now that I know exactly where all this goes, I can figure out exactly where this has to be relative to this so that can plug in. Obviously going through that hole there, which should give me quite a bit of room actually, because with this radio gutted, I mean, look at that. All the way back to the AC. That really helps. So at this point, I gotta say, I think a lot got done. I'm very happy. I don't know. What do you guys say?
Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.